Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. So the rematch between Estrada and Gonzalez, what a brilliant fight that was. If you haven't seen it just yet, the highlights are on the DAZN YouTube channel. I will leave a link to that in the description below. You definitely want to check this fight out because it was incredible. Estrada started quickly and he looked to kind of put Gonzalez on the back foot. He wanted to make sure that he was first and last to throw. That is what he said in the build-up, and he implemented that going into the ring. It was clear that Estrada wanted to establish a foothold early on, set the pace, set the standard. This is how we're going to fight, and we're going to fight my way. That is the kind of mold that he set going forwards in this fight. Gonzalez found his way back into it, and it was an evenly matched contest. The distance that these guys were fighting at was just incredible. I mean, they're two little guys, they don't necessarily have the punching power of the guys up the higher weight classes, but boy, were they trading some leather. I think that Chocolatito wanted to navigate this fight and find a way to take away some strengths from Estrada and maybe exploit some weaknesses, but Estrada wasn't allowing him any time to think. He was trying to press him all the time, and when you've got a little ferocious guy in front of you like that, that makes it very difficult to think on your feet, especially when you're under fire from someone who punches like that, because Estrada is a natural boxer puncher, whereas Gonzalez is someone who can work down to the body, he can work at angles as well, cutting off the ring. He's a brilliant fighter, all-rounder as well. It's not like he does one thing incredibly well. He does everything very well. I mean, he's like a 9, 8 out of 10 across the board. And it was almost like that EF5 fight almost rejuvenated Gonzalez. So he was back in there with a shot. He is 33 years old now, but he's still shown he has plenty left to give in the sport of boxing. At this kind of weight class, I would imagine it's not necessarily as bad as around 154, anywhere above that or below, where fighters are trying to make weight. Obviously heavyweights don't have to, but fighters who are in a lower weight class trying to make their size count by dropping down and losing a little bit more weight. I mean, you have fighters in 154 who are around 6 foot, which is just crazy because that is a very light weight for someone who is 6 foot and has broad shoulders. Whereas down at this weight, these guys are quite little and they are evenly matched, similar kind of size. So it comes down to skill and finesse a lot more. What is awesome about this as well is Estrada has been ordered to defend against Rungvisai. Now, these guys have fought one another. Rungvisai and Estrada have fought before, so that will be a second fight. Then there will be a trilogy between him and Chocolatito if he wins, Estrada and Chocolatito. So there is kind of that mold to create, not necessarily like a tournament, but they can just all fight one another. And I love that. Imagine if all the other weight classes were able to do that. The reason why it happens down at this weight class, guess what? Because the politics don't get in the way, because the money is only big in these kind of fights. So what are they going to do? Go and fight someone else? Or are they going to fight this guy for big money for them, which would be something that a super middleweight would get for fighting just a mandatory, or picking someone who's in their top 15 of that governing body that they are maybe champion to. That is why we get the better fights in the lower weight classes. And I think that this kind of fight between Estrada and Gonzalez, and the fact that it is happening, then Rungvisai next. I mean, imagine that. Estrada fights Chocolatito, then Rungvisai straight away. Imagine if it was like that in other weight classes. They do set an example in these lower weight classes to go after the bigger fights, because they are the fights that generate the big money and the legacy fights are for these guys, so they go and get them. I mean, it's not necessarily down to the fighters in the higher weight classes, it's down to those around them saying, no, let's go for this guy, let's go for that guy. They plot their route, and yes, that's great for their career. They may remain undefeated, they may get to a big fight, and the big money comes then. But still, we miss out on some of the biggest fights, and that is what we want to see. Canelo is doing it. Canelo is doing well. He continuously fights top 10 opponents, or the best opponents that he can get in the ring. We need to see that more in boxing. And I have to say, I think that Estrada definitely deserves a top 6, a top 7 pound for pound ranking. I'm not sure where he is at the moment. I believe he's around 9 or 10. He could be higher than that after that victory over Gonzalez, and if he beats Rungvisai, then fights Chocolatito again, then what a resume he has to be perhaps in the top 5 in the pound for pound. Actually, you know what? I'm going to check the pound for pound. 1 second, I'm just going to check this. Canelo is number 1, I do know that, and I know that Inoue is number 2. I'm pretty sure that Terence Crawford is number 3. And Usyk is in there somewhere. 1 second. Yeah, Canelo number 1, Inoue number 2, Terence Crawford number 3, Usyk number 4, Errol Spence number 5, Teofimo Lopez number 6, Lomachenko 7, Estrada number 8, Josh Taylor number 9, and Kazuko Ioka at number 10. So one thing I'd like to say is, why is Usyk number 4? He's a brilliant fighter, not taking anything away from him, but why is he number 4? What has he done at heavyweight? He's listed as a heavyweight obviously because that's where he's fighting. He's going to get an interim world championship fight next against Joe Joyce. If not that, then he'll get AJ. Fair enough. But then give him the ranking if he gets the victory over one of those guys. He shouldn't be number 4 in my opinion because he's done nothing in his current weight class. That is what we have to go off of, I believe. Teofimo Lopez number 6 is a good choice, I believe. That is probably where he should be slotting in. Lomachenko just below him, fair enough I guess, but I mean I'd put Estrada above him now because Lomachenko lost his last fight against Teofimo Lopez. Estrada won his, so I would say switch places. 7 for Estrada, and then Lomachenko can slot in at 8. In fact, I put Josh Taylor ahead of Lomachenko because he's unified champion, he's going into an undisputed fight. Perhaps after that, he can get a bit more respect on the top 10 rankings because he wasn't even in there when they redone them because they upgraded it and Josh Taylor wasn't put in there. Then they upgraded it once again and Josh Taylor was finally in there. He deserves that spot. 17-0, 13 KOs, he's unified. I mean, he was in the World Boxing Super Series that he won as well. Then that cemented him as number 1 in the super lightweight division. You have to look at that as well. Are they number 1 in their current weight class? Canelo? Yes. Inoue? Yes. Terence Crawford? Probably not. I mean, I'd say that he beats Errol Spence in my opinion. I think he would. But has he fought the level of opponent that Errol Spence has? It's not his fault. Top Rank need to get him the fight. But still, he hasn't fought guys like Sean Porter. I mean, he's fought Kell Brook, but then he was a bit over the hill. Amir Khan, over the hill. Errol Spence has wins over Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter. I mean, Kell Brook when he was in his prime, or just about in his prime. Maybe Kell Brook was weight drained slightly, but still, great win. And I'm not saying that Errol Spence would beat Terence Crawford. I believe vice versa, but still, you have to look at their resumes. And Terence Crawford's doesn't tell you that he's number 1 in the welterweight division. Errol Spence does. So therefore, how can he be number 3? So that has to be called in question. Is Usyk number 1 heavyweight? Nope. Is it Teofimo Lopez number 1 lightweight? Yes he is. Is Lomachenko? No he's not. Is Estrada number 1 super flyweight? Yes. Josh Taylor number 1 at super lightweight? Yes. Ioka? Yes, he is number 1 in his respected weight class. I think that is what they need to look at as well. Instead of saying this is the best fighter in the pound for pound list, number 1, number 2, number 3, they need to look at the fact that who have they fought? Then rank them based off of that. These fighters are not ranked based off of their potential, they are ranked based off of what they have done in the sport. If you ranked it off of potential, that top 10 would look completely different, but that's not how they are supposed to rank it. They're supposed to rank it based off of who they've beaten and how they've beaten them. Say, Terence Crawford, he's a great fighter, I believe he's an unbelievable fighter, but his resume suggests he hasn't fought top guys at welterweight. His best performances have come in different weight classes, and he is now a welterweight, so he needs some bigger fights. It's not down to him. Many welterweights are on PBC, or maybe even Matchroom, different platforms from him, so it's hard for him to get fights. So perhaps Terence Crawford needs to think about jumping ship. I mean, Bob Arum even said he's not going broke paying for Terence Crawford to have these high purses when he's not in big fights. So if Bob Arum doesn't want him around, there are plenty other platforms who want a Terence Crawford. Matchroom, PBC, and they will give him the big fights. I mean, I'm not saying Bob Arum can't secure that. I kind of am, because he hasn't done that in the past. Amir Khan, Kell Brook, they're not big fights because those guys are past it in the welterweight division. So therefore, he needs to move it to a platform that can give him the bigger fights. That is important for Terence Crawford. And the Errol Spence situation is not his fault either. Errol Spence recently come out and explained that he's giving him 80-20 now. 80-20 to Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford gets 20%, he gets 80. How the hell is he expecting to make a fight like that? He is just pricing himself out. There is no budging, there is no, oh, let's do a 50-50 with these stipulations in place, let's try and make this fight happen. That doesn't seem to be happening, and that means that fight will never happen. We'll never see those two fight one another just because of politics and because of the fact that Errol Spence doesn't believe that he should be offering him a 50-50 for this fight. Maybe it's not worth that, but it might take that to get the fight over the line. That's just the way it is, of politics once again stopping big fights from happening. But let's give respect to Gonzalez and Estrada for putting it on the line and having the big fight. Next it will be Rung Vasai for Estrada, another big fight. Guys, anyway, drop your thoughts on this in the comments below. Also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks guys.